volume option here, which is actually
Cooler Master H500P. Well, looks like they did it. There's mesh. There's actually a lot of changes to the new H500P Mesh version. Other than the obvious color change to going white from the earlier gunmetal color, there are options for mesh panels now, or will be soon when it launches in the next few months. And there's also changes to the structural integrity of the paneling, alongside changes to how the paneling mounts to the case. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before that, this video is brought to you by EVGA and the X299 Dark motherboard for the Intel high-end desktop CPUs. The X299 Dark is one of the only motherboards on the market with proper VRM cooling. We've tested this and found significant performance increase over those without active cooling on the VRMs. And you can learn more about the X299 Dark at the link in the description below. So for the Chord Changes, mesh is the obvious one, but for the front panel, this now requires somewhat of a push on the top. It actually has a clip at the top of it now right there. And so when you push down on the front panel, that depresses and you're able to pull it out normally. So if I just kind of, like we did in the original review, the table is moving a lot more than the case right now, which is good. That's what you want. So you actually have to push down pretty hard, pop them both out. So job well done, Cooler Master. The top panel also has a screw added to the back, which is something that we've seen and liked on a few cases. Not enough do it, but Cooler Master's added one to the top back of the H500P Mesh, and there are updates coming to the channel for the gunmetal H500P, the original one. So as the existing H500P continues to sell through its current volume on the channel, the changes for this, aside from the mesh, obviously it'll keep the acrylic, will eventually populate. So in terms of the structural integrity changes, things like that, that will come to the acrylic gunmetal original version as they sell through the existing quantities on Newegg and all of the others. So yeah, screw on the back, can't really just rip it off anymore. That's well done. This glass panel no longer wobbles. It's not flush, but there is one that has a flush glass panel, which we'll talk about. However, it no longer wobbles like it did in the original review. So also a good change. There's one final change I wanted to point out, and that's in the power supply. So now rather than removing both of the power supply shroud components, you can leave them in there and just use a bracket on the back, mount the power supply to the bracket, and there's clearance to push it in through the back of the case. Similar to, I think the S340 and the Corsair 600C both do that. So if you are familiar with those cases, it's the same idea here. Those are the main changes for this one. I think that pretty much covers them. I suppose on the structural integrity side and the plastics, the plastic itself isn't really different, but this is. So because it's not an acrylic panel now, you're really not concerned about visuals. You can put a bar right here to strengthen the panel. It doesn't flex anywhere near as much as it used to. And I remember the quote, for the H500P, we said that the plastic felt like a McDonald's toy. That's a bit better now. So also a good thing. It doesn't creak anymore and it stays pretty sturdy. All of these are good changes for the H500P Mesh. And one final thing on the mesh side, there are two options right now they're considering. One has a dust filter in it and the other one does not. Next, we're going to look at the other version of the H500. It's a slightly higher end model, so we'll take the camera over there and check that out. So this one is the other case. It's a bit more premium at $200. It's the H500M. Now the first thing you might be saying is, but Steve, there's still glass in the front. Yes, but they will be including a mesh option, so this should be something you can pop out. It's currently a prototype, this whole case is, so we can't demo it for you, but the plan is to be able to pop out the tempered glass in the front and add in a mesh. There are a few other changes though. The side here comes out a bit more, so the mesh is now coming out a bit more forward over the 200mm fans, and it seems like a steeper angle, not sure on that though. The top panel will have the same screw in the back, come the final version of the design, and there's a prototype power supply nameplate right now that has a Cooler Master logo that's illuminated on it. They're actually not sure how they're going to finalize that, so if you have opinions on the power supply nameplate, leave a thought below so Cooler Master can make their final decision. Other than that, the fans are ARGB, so they are addressable, and that's addressable for the front two 200mm fans, addressable for the rear 140. All three of those fans are included in the $200 case, and there will be a controller, which is not finalized today, but there will be a controller in the back that handles all the addressable RGB LEDs, including being able to adjust to what's on the screen. And then finally, there's just an item of interest here, and that is the 200mm radiator. So this is something Cooler Master is working on, where if you have a 200mm fan and you have a liquid cooler, obviously you'd want a radiator of the same size, otherwise what are you doing? So there's a 200mm radiator in here that's also being worked on. We don't know the full details of it. None of this stuff is really fully finalized, but it should be coming to market sometime relatively soon. But yeah, that's the H500M and the H500P Mesh versions of the case that we reviewed last year. So for more, as always, subscribe. You can hit the link in the description below for additional information, or go to patreon.com/gamersnexus to help us out directly. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.